Welcome to Tracking the Week. On Monday, Vice President Kashim Shettima returned to Abuja after leading Nigeria's delegation to the United Nations Climate Change Conference COP30 in Belém, Brazil, where the country reaffirmed its global climate leadership and commitment to a green transition. The Vice President joined other world leaders, development partners, and business executives at the Leaders Climate Summit, hosted by President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. During the summit, VP Shettima represented President Bola Tinubu and delivered Nigeria's statement titled "The Rational Soul of Nature," calling on world leaders to recognize the economic value of nature and to change significant finance towards protecting and restoring it through predictable, equitable, and accessible funding mechanisms. He further emphasized that Nigeria's renewable climate agenda represents not just an aspiration, but a solemn national commitment to preserve the planet for future generations. Also on Monday, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, declared the former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, wanted over an alleged case of conspiracy and dishonest conversion of $14,859,257 in a public notice. The Commission spokesman Dele Oyewale said the funds were provided by the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board for Atlantic International Refinery and Petrochemical. Silva, 61, is from Brass Local Government Area of Bayelsa State. This notice is pursuant to November 6, 2025 warrant of the Lagos State High Court. The Commission urges anybody with useful information as to his whereabouts to contact the Commission in its Ibadan, Oyo, Sokoto, Maiduguri, Benin, Makodi, Kaduna, Ilorin, Enugu, Kano, Lagos, Gombe, Port Harcourt, or Abuja offices, or the nearest police station and other security agencies. On Tuesday, the Federal High Court in Abuja again stopped the People's Democratic Party from proceeding with its planned national convention slated for November 15 and 16, 2025 in Ibadan, Oyo State capital. The convention is meant to elect new national officers to steer the affairs of the party. A former Jigawa State Governor, Sule Lamido, added an expert motion moved by his lawyer, Jefath Njukonye-San, predicate for an interim order stopping the planned convention pending the hearing and determination of the motion and notice. The trial judge, Justice Lifo, in a ruling, held that the application of the plaintiff has merit and succeed. Consequently, the judge restrained the PDP convening its planned national convention scheduled for November 15 and 16 in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, pending the hearing and determination of the substantive suit. Also on Tuesday, the ruling All Progressives Congress APC further strengthened its dominance in the 10th Senate following the defection of Senator Jarigbe Agam Jarigbe from Cross River North. Speaking with journalists shortly after Tuesday's plenary, Senator Jarigbe said the decision to join the APC was informed by the visible achievements of President Bola Tinubu's administration. With the latest development, APC now owns 76 seats, consolidating its majority in the upper chamber. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) trails with 25 senators, while the Labour Party retains 4. Other political parties represented in the red chamber include the All Progressive Grand Alliance (APGA) with 2 seats, the Social Democratic Party with 1, the New Nigeria's People's Party also with 1, bringing the total membership to 109 senators. On Wednesday, the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU urged the federal government to prioritize education and swiftly conclude ongoing negotiations to prevent further disruption of academic activities. In a statement, Vice President Christopher Piwuna, ASU said it was concerned about the government's inconsistent approach to the negotiation process, warning that such actions could have serious consequences for Nigeria's education sector. ASU explained that it suspended the warning strike out of respect for the goodwill shown by students, parents, labor unions, the media, and other Nigerians, believing that a 1-month window would be enough to conclude negotiations if the government acted in good faith. Still on Wednesday, the Nigerian Senate approved President Bola Tinubu's request to raise 1.15 trillion naira from the domestic debt market to finance the unfunded portion of the 2025 budget deficit. The approval came after the Senate adopted a report from the Committee on Local and Foreign Debt during plenary session. The report highlighted that the 2025 Appropriations Act sets total expenditure at nearly 60 trillion naira, an increase of 5.25 trillion naira over the initial proposed was 54.74 trillion naira. This budget expansion resulted in a deficit of 14.10 trillion naira. Of these, 12.95 trillion naira has already been approved for borrowing, leaving an unfunded gap of approximately 1.15 trillion naira, which the Senate now authorized to be funded domestically. On Thursday, 3 days into the legislative week, the House of Representatives directed the Federal Ministry of Education and WAEC to suspend the planned computer-based testing for the 2026 WAS until 2030. The decision followed a motion by Honorable Kelechi Nwogo, who warned that most schools, especially in rural areas, lack computers, internet access, power supply and trained teachers for the CBT system. Lawmakers urged the ministry to use the next 4 years to provide necessary facilities and training, while committees engage stakeholders and report back within 4 weeks. The House also addressed the nation's revenue crisis, noting that Nigeria loses over 8 trillion naira annually through tax incentives, waivers and exemption, in a motion moved by Honorable Ibrahim Mohammed. Still on Thursday, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, firmly dismissed reports of a clash between himself and the Nigerian military, emphasizing his deep respect for the armed forces. Speaking on Thursday, Wike clarified that a recent dispute involving FCT officials and military personnel at a contested land site was actually with a private individual who violated land laws, not with the military institution itself. He urged all Nigerians to obey the law, warning that the government will not tolerate violations of land use regulations or any attempt to obstruct officials performing their lawful duties. Wike stated that his actions have always been guided strictly by legal principles, not by sentiments or emotion. He added that if there were ever a genuine issue with the military, he knows the proper channels to address it. On Friday, Justice Peter Odelifu of the Federal High Court in Abuja issued the final order stopping the People's Democratic Party from proceeding with its 2025 National Convention scheduled for Ibadan in Oyo State. The convention was billed to hold between November 15 and 16 in the Oyo State capital for the purpose of electing national officers for the PDP. However, Justice Peter Odelifu, in his final judgment on Friday afternoon in a suit filed by former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido, barred PDP from proceeding with the convention until it complies with its constitutions and guidelines on the convention. He ordered that the Ibadan convention must be put on hold until Sule Lamido is allowed to purchase nomination form for the office of the national chairmanship and campaign to realize his aspiration. The judge prohibited INEC from supervising, monitoring or aiding the Ibadan convention until the former Jigawa State Governor is allowed to participate in the convention. Lastly, on Friday, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission (FCCPC) set January 5, 2025 as deadline for all digital lending operators to comply fully with the Digital, Electronic, Online and Non-Traditional Consumer Lending Regulations 2025, according to a statement signed by the Commission's Director of Corporate Affairs, Ondaje Ijago. The regulations, which took effect on July 21, 2025, are designed to promote fairness, transparency and accountability in Nigeria's digital lending market. To support compliance, the FCCPC also issued guidelines on the Digital, Electronic, Online and Non-Traditional Consumer Lending Regulations 2025. The guidelines outline documentation requirements, provide practical directions for lenders and intermediaries, and introduce updated Form 1 and 3 based on stakeholders' feedback. And that's it on Track in the Week.